welcome to Behind the Whites. We are back after a little break, enforced break, a technical mishap, but we're not going to name any names because that'd be, just a bit harsh on producer Mark, wouldn't it, Chris?
It's just a little.
Anyway, don't you worry about it. We're back. We've got plenty to talk about when it comes to the Trotters because, of course, we have got Lincoln City to look back at. We have got a huge game coming up that we're going to look forward to as well. Blackpool away. Always an interesting one. And maybe we should have spoke to Dan Jones. Given that it's... then again, maybe not.
No, I know.
He does get a little bit giddy when it comes to his Blackpool boys, doesn't he? And, of course, we've got women's team and we have got B team to talk about. And the women's team... Oh, they had a bit of a result, so we'll get stuck into all of that. But of course, first things first, we've got to get stuck into a little bit of first team action. But before we do, of course, a big old shout out to our partners here at Behind the Whites. Of course, the magnificent Bolton FM and Imagination Street. And we're actually joined by a representative of Imagination Street this evening in the Little Dragon, who I have now realised is green and may have disappeared due to the green screen effect. But hopefully not, hopefully you can see him. And I have actually fixed that off someone's desk, so don't worry, I will put that back. Anyway, on to the fantastic... You know what? I'm not even going to try and hype it up. Another 1-1 draw. What's going on?
To be honest, it looked very likely they were going to have absolutely nothing to show for it. To be honest, when it comes to the August bank holiday fixtures, they usually end up being a load of nothing for Bolton. But for once, it ended up falling their way, only after Lincoln got punished for some thorough time wasting on their part.
Well, that's always going to happen. You can't blame teams for doing it. It's about officials stopping it and nipping it in the bud, giving those cards out. And we've seen, as they've got a little bit more stringent with it, we are seeing a little bit less of it, but it's still there, it's still quite prevalent, and they've just got to come down hard on it for me. However...
They didn't do enough of it in the first half for my liking.
Well, there you go, but... Well, it is just... Crap! EFL officials, it's what we used to being Wanderers fans, and to be honest with you, any fan in the EFL, I'm sure, can absolutely sympathise. They're not biased, they're just not very good.
Well, how many times have we said this, that in spite of the fact this is a full-time competition that Bolton are competing
part-time officials.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. Why not just have full-time officials for full-time competitions? But then who'd be a referee? Because it's not like they get it's not like they get the support where they need to when they're climbing up the ladder.
Well, that's it. The support's arguably not there. It's not very lucrative. You're not going to be full time unless you get to like the creme de la creme of the Premier League, and they're not the best.
Yeah, in spite of all the apparent video technology helping the way, isn't it?
Absolutely, but it is what it is. And again, when that's the atmosphere you're in, when it comes to officials. It's not... You can't blame teams for doing it if they feel like they can get away with it and they feel like they can get a result out of it. And should it have been, if there's days where we end up implying a little bit of time wasted because we're wanting to look later on in the game, I'm sure we'll be very happy to see it. It is what it is. But I was asked midweek when I was playing football with the Talking Football boys, one of the lads said, how do you reckon the Wanderers will get on at the weekend? And I just looked at him very blankly and said, like, Frank Drebin deadpan, it'll be 1-1, won't it? It's what we do. And it does seem to be that 1-1 is the score of the moment for Bolton Wanderers. 3 in a row now?
Yeah, 3 in a row. You know how weird this season's been? All 5 of the matches have had 2 goals in them.
Crazy, isn't it? And we've still only not scored in 1 game.
Yeah.
We've only kept 1 clean sheet.
Right at the very beginning of the campaign.
So, again, a lot of talk online saying we need to take our chances, which is true when I've seen, looking at the game on Saturday, and that we need someone to come in and do that. But I don't think we necessarily do need someone to come in and do that. I think it's fine margins, and I think if the players we've got can just, sometimes get a little bit luckier. I mean, we hit the bar, we had one blocked off the line, we had one that looked very penalty-esque. We did look good going forward again. We did look good creating those chances. And Yeah, you could throw money at it and think, well, we'll bring someone in, but who are you going to get that you can guarantee is going to put those chances away? That's the big question there. But for me, again, the question mark really is at the back. Last season we were pretty poor defensively. We conceded 70 goals or something like that last season.
Too many.
We haven't strengthened all that much in the defensive area. So I want us to be. That's where if I was looking at Wanderers spending any more money, it wouldn't be a goal scorer I'd be looking for. It'd be a centre back. It'd be somebody defensive to come in and shore that side of things up, because we conceded in most of the games this season. We have conceded in. We only kept one clean sheet so far this season. So that's a kind of a telling statistic. And the manner of which we conceded the goal at the weekend, early doors.
19 seconds.
But again, it's another instance of Bolton Wanderers conceding a goal when we've just not switched on. We normally, a lot of the goals we've conceded this season, from the looks of it, we've switched off for a split second and we've been caught out. This time, we just didn't seem like we'd switched on from the start of the game.
You see, it's interesting you bring that up. Do you want to ready the bell again?
No.
The thinking was there was a foul on the build-up before the cross, and then just as it was delivered in, I think it was Josh Zacharias Coakley, according to the manager when he went to the presser early, who was brought down at the far post. And nothing was done about it. You know what? In all honesty, I think I made a reference to this after the county game. We do all this talking about how supposedly bad the officiating is, but you have to bear in mind the game is a lot more physical in the third and the fourth tier. Yeah. You can play all the brilliant football you want, but if you're not willing to just roll your sleeves up and get on with the job at hand, teams will take advantage of you, and you can't really complain if you've ended up conceding, regardless of whatever the build-up was to said goal.
No, and it's not like we've not been at this level for a decent amount of time now. We understand what the officiating is like in terms of quality, but also in terms of standards, and that it is a little bit more of a physical league. How many times do we find ourselves saying, "Oh, the game's gone soft"? I preferred it back in the 90s when you could. It was more physical game, and again, our parents will probably say the same thing about when we were getting into football, about looking back at their golden era of when they were watching football. I get that it's a generational thing, but at the same time, you see so many people saying, "Oh, the game's gone soft. There's too many soft fouls given away." But then on the flip side, when it happens to your team, you're like, "Well, hang on a minute, that's a foul on us." And I think it's just consistency. You can complain about the level of physicality in the game all you want, but what most football fans desire most of all is consistency, and saying, fine, if there's the levels of physicality in the division, then fine, but that's going to be consistent across the board, and it's not, and that I think is where people get very frustrated.
I think that's the understandable response given what had happened. 19 seconds, as I mentioned. Not a good way to start.
Despite the fact that there might have been a couple of fouls in that build-up, the way we've conceded the goal, it's just, we've had the ball back at one point and then lost it, and we just did not look switched on. And had we been switched on, I don't think the fouls matter, because we've dealt with it before it gets to that point. Disappointing that we don't get the rub of the green with the decisions, but it didn't seem like we got the rub of the green for the majority of the day, to be honest with you. And whether that, I'm not saying that again, I always say they're not biased, they're not great, but also I think sometimes you just don't get that little bit of luck. We've had a goal disallowed, we've hit the crossbar, as I said, we've had one cleared off the line. But then at the end of the day, you keep on trying, and eventually you get your rewards, and maybe a little bit lucky to see the ball bundled over the line by a defender. And to be honest with you, I've seen it a few times again, and I'm thinking he shouldn't be trundling that into his own net, though. He seemed to have a decent amount of time to figure out what he was going to do with the ball. But I'll take it all day long.
Yes, well, you would do, wouldn't you, to avoid what would have been a rather...
Absolutely.
Embarrassing home defeat might be the right word. Humiliating wouldn't have necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with the League One season, as we've seen, there's a lot of games in it, and yes, a bit of a stuttering start isn't ideal, but it in no way puts you out of the mix for anything over the course of the season.
If anything, last year was more of a stuttering start. But then by the time we got to the end of August, Bolton had played one game fewer than they have right now. And even then you thought, yeah, this isn't going according to plan here at
No,
all.
we've been smashed a couple of times as well at that point. And this season, at no point have we looked like a team that's going to get absolutely ruined by somebody.
No.
We've just been a little bit lax at the back, and we've not taken our chances going forward. There could be very, very easy, subtle fixes that just come as this team gets, more and more bedded in together. Maybe it's something that in January, if we're still talking about it, then it's certainly going to be something that needs addressing. But I think there's still, we've not seen Sam Dalby at his best by any stretch because he's got injured, he's not fully fit yet, and we've seen him come on, but we've not really seen a great deal of what we hope Sam Dalby can do. And we also, we will have the opportunity in January to strengthen. Hopefully we're not too far in the mix if it hasn't gone so well. But it could also be that we get a couple of wins under our belt and it starts to click in and you can go on one of those runs. So I'm not screaming and panicking yet. I'm not majorly anxious about it at this moment in time. But I do want to see some improvements at both ends of the pitch, to be honest with you, at the moment.
Yeah, I don't have any disagreement with that. Incidentally, Dalby did come off the bench, as did Richard Taylor, first competitive appearance for Bolton Wanderers, and inadvertently played a part in leading to the equalising goal because he conceded the corner. Lincoln didn't end up doing anything with it. Bolton fashioned that counter-attack, and thanks to Mario Cozy, Dewberry's ball into the area, Tom Amer, more on him in a tick, ends up bundling into the back of the net, somewhat robbing Dalby the chance of getting the glory. But accidentally, thanks to Richard Taylor conceding that corner, Bolton ended up somehow getting a point out of that.
Well, yeah, and it's good to see, Richard getting that appearance, and hopefully, again, I say we've not strengthened that much, we have brought Richard in, and hopefully he can solid that up a little bit, because again, I don't think it's that we lack the quality. It's just that, like I said, there just seems to be that switch off moment, and I think that maybe it's a little bit of communication and someone in that back line that can keep everybody switched on.
Interesting you bring this up. They had a friendly. It was mostly a B team game, but it was good because Taylor and Dalby ended up getting minutes under the belt, which they need. They ended up playing against Manchester United. I don't think it was the first team, although it might explain why they ended up losing in the League Cup.
Well,
however...
Go on, Grimsby, well done, lads.
However, that's the thing you have to bear in mind, because it's great right now that Max Conway and Mario Cozy-Dewberry, they're two players who've been given opportunities to show what they can do. I think it has been mentioned they played every single minute of the league season so far. But again, you don't want to push them too hard so that when we get to the middle of the season, they're going to be knackered by the time the second part of it rolls round. I think Taylor's needed to try and push Conway on a little bit to offer him some competition for that left-back role, and Mario certainly needs someone to push him a little bit when it comes to being on that right wing.
Absolutely. I'm sure that they will see them, missing games through needing to be rested and such. But at the same time,
and inevitably, a dip in form's going to happen.
Well, inevitably, you can't just keep putting in top performances. But at the same time, you want your best 11 out on that pitch as often as possible, and Cozy-Dewberry is without a shadow of a doubt a huge part of that. And the way he started this season, he's without a shadow of a doubt, one of, if not the first name on the team sheet, realistically, from what we've seen from him this season. One thing I will say, though, is on Saturday, as much as it's very exciting when Cozy-Dewberry on one side and Sissoko or Gale on the other side, as much as it's very exciting when they'll cut in and try and play that kind of shot come cross into the box or try and get a shot off, interestingly, the one time that he actually goes to the byline and puts the ball across in, we score a goal. So I love it when players like that cut in and do things like that, because it's dangerous. But you've also, I think there's a lot to be said for still trying to get to the byline and get the ball across as well as cutting in and either looping it in the other way or going for that shot. You've got to mix it up. Obviously, you don't just want to be a one-trick pony. Defenders are going to get used to that. But it just shows that when he does get his head down and get to the byline, he can put a ball in that can really cause some problems.
You want to see that a little bit more often, particularly against, I'm not saying against the more height-friendly teams, certainly.
Because
unless Derby's got a leap on him we haven't seen and he's able to.
I mean, he's not a wee lad, is he? To be fair.
No, he's not.
He's not a wee lad, and I'm sure he's going to be quite, pretty effective in the air if we can utilise him properly. But yeah, absolutely. When you're against the defence that's maybe got a height advantage on your forwards, continually pumping the ball into the box high up probably isn't playing to your strengths. Getting the ball in low and hard, it can kind of ricochet anywhere. And as we saw at the weekend, all it needs is that little scuff touch from a defensive player, and all of a sudden he's bundled it into his own net. And we've got the point that I wouldn't say we didn't deserve, because of the way we played. I think we deserved more than a point. I think we should have won the game. Off the chances created, I think we, in the second half especially.
Yeah.
First half, yes, we were a little bit flat, a little bit disappointing. But second half, I thought we looked much more dangerous. We looked like we'd shaken off any rust from that first half, or any mental cobwebs from that first half, conceding so early, which can certainly rock a team. We came out and we made plenty of chances. We just couldn't seem to get the ball in the back of the net. But it wasn't that we weren't having shots. Again, as I say, the keeper was drawn into action. There was one blocked off the line by a defender. We've had one disallowed. We've hit the bar. We've hit the post. It's not as if, and that you can put that back over the past few games. It's not like we're not shooting or we're not giving people opportunity to shoot, and it's not as if the shots are flying off at all, like a Man United penalty. It's just that keepers are saving them, or that we're hitting the post, and it's a much finer margin, I feel, than last year, when we just didn't seem to be creating anywhere near enough shooting opportunities.
There is that, but I'm glad you brought up the.
We still need to take the chances.
Oh yeah, of course. That is the thing that has to be taken into consideration. The funny thing was they could have ended up levelling things up on 8 minutes, but George Wickens ended up saving at close range from. I wasn't sure who it was, although looking on the match report it said Josh Cogley, and then there was a rebound effort that Joel Randall unfortunately ended up putting over the bar. And yeah, for the majority of the first half, the better chances ended up falling to Lincoln.
Yeah.
Tom Amer was well kept out by Teddy Sharman-Lowe. Rico Hackett had a half volley that ended up going wide of the mark. It was well hit, but if he'd got his accuracy right, that would have been 2-0. And yet the problem was, from Lincoln's point of view, let me see if I can show you.
Here we go.
I'm imitating Tom Amer here, and how long he was taking to do a throw-in.
Is he? I think you're off camera there, by the way.
I am.
Oh, right. Oh, right. So he's. I see. Oh, he's going back again. Yeah. See, by this point, the referee's got to be, the referee's got to be blowing his whistle. The referee's got to be, hurrying things up. And we see, but we've seen in the Premier League now that they're bringing in these different rules. For certain infraction, if you take too long with a goal kick, the referee can make it a corner now.
Yeah, the thing was, 2 minutes added on time at the end of the first half. And what was the 8 minutes originally allocated? I think we ended up playing beyond that, but it was that kind of thing, where's your consistency for the amount of time wasted in the first half versus the amount that they ended up seeing in the second half? And there are two bad things that happened in the first half that works against Bolton. One was that Ethan Erhan was booked. Looking at it, I think he was a tiny bit fortunate not to be sent off. And the second thing was Xavier Simons picks up a knock, so both of them had to be hooked at the break. Fortunately, you've got two very able replacements to come on in Aaron Morley and Josh Sheehan. Both of them had very good chances to try and put Bolton back on level terms. But Wickens on 2 occasions kept out Sheehan, and Morley ended up hitting the crossbar on the Gallo mark.
Yeah, I mean, that again, like I said, it's those fine margins, isn't it? And you mentioned Wickens, and you got to feel for him a little bit to have a good, because he did perform well. He did make some good saves. He commanded his area fairly well. To concede in the last gasps of stoppage time because the ball's kind of hit your defender's trailing leg and trundled in. You got to be pretty fuming about that. That's the way that your clean sheet's been ruined. I felt he had a good performance, but we've just got to find a way of putting it past the goalkeepers, haven't we? On a more regular basis, especially if we are going to be making a habit of conceding goals.
That's just it. And my hope is they've taken the extra training time, because lest we forget, no midweek game for Bolton to contend with. Even better, it wasn't played on a Wednesday, which will probably end up aiding them, you'd think, a lot better heading into the weekend against Blackpool.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. You would imagine so. And again, it's a week where they can concentrate on getting things right on the training ground, and they can get themselves ready for that away trip to Blackpool, which, it's a big one in the calendar for all the Wanderers fans. There's always been a little bit of a rivalry between the two teams. So, hopefully we can go there and we can get a positive result, and we can give our friend Danny Jones a little bit of stick. Because, of course, when you're playing against teams that your friends support, you just want those bragging rights, don't you? You just want to be able to give them a little bit of stick. And the last few times we played Blackpool, it's not really gone so swimmingly well for us over the years.
No, well, not at Bloomfield Road.
No.
48 years, that's the last time Bolton ended up tasting success.
That's 10 years before I was born the last time we won away at Blackpool. So come on, Stephen Schumacher and the boys going to sort it out this weekend.
You remember the league fixture back in March, though? They didn't play altogether that bad. They just ended up, again, not taking the chances. All right, fair enough, Aaron Morley was sent off as well. But it was just a matter of not having the luck go their way where it mattered. Although you can say that it did have something of a happy ending, because a few days later they went to Wigan and ended up winning and ended that long winless stretch against them.
Yes, of course. That's a Chris Farino moment right near the end of that game. Well, yeah, of course, Blackpool at the weekend, though, and again, we go there this time. Maybe not with the best start, but I think from a supporters' point of view, it'd be a great time to get another win on the board and really kickstart that, because a win away at Blackpool, the supporters are going to be big fans of that.
Yes.
And I think it will help just inject that little bit more optimism and passion. Not that we like passion, but you know what I mean, that positive energy that you get on on away trips and on home terraces when things are going well, and you go and get a big away win against a rival, as we saw against Wigan last season. It can really lift that atmosphere and the positivity going into the next set of fixtures.
It's worth bearing in mind, and we'll say this again right before Wigan, forget about what they've been like this season, Blackpool. Forget about it. It's a derby day. Form goes right out the window. You turn up on the day, you perform, you'll be fine. You don't turn up, you're not going to be. Pure and simple.
And it is what it is. But I mean, it's great that you say that. Just I'm looking at what Blackpool
again, forget it
in the league. But you're right. You are right. Form isn't always the greatest indicator in these kind of games. When they are going to be two passionate sets of supporters, and you hope that really filters into the players. Yes, one win in the last 5 for Blackpool, but again, our form hasn't been exactly stunning. We've also only got 1 win in the last 5 games. So, all right, yes, they've got 4 losses as well, whereas we've got a loss and 4 draws. Well, actually, it wasn't a real loss, was it? It was a penalty loss. But we did go out the cup, so it is what it is. But yes, we're in better form. But again, you look at that head-to-head, and it does seem to be that Blackpool, the home team, tends to win in this fixture. 2-1 to Blackpool at their place last time out. 2-1 to us, our place the time before that. Back at their place, they've won 4-1. Again at their place with that cup game, so we played there twice. In 2004, we lost on penalties. And then back in 2023, when we played them at our place, we beat them. So it does seem to be one that goes with home advantage.
Yes.
But hopefully we can see more from, hopefully we can see an end to that, and we can get 3 points. But let's be honest with you, if we're being very realistic, we all know that it's probably going to be 1-1.
If it ends up being 1-1, is there any kind of surrender wager we can throw out here now?
Just to say, put a monkey on it.
Put a monkey on it.
How much is a monkey again?
I don't know. I'm not a betting man. Anyway.
It's like a slang for an amount of money.
I know it's slang for an amount of money.
I'm not a betting man.
I don't know what a monkey is, alright.
That's why I asked.
I know what burning is, I just don't know what a monkey is.
Just don't put any money on it, because we don't know what we're talking about. I think that's probably the best way of doing it.
Alright, fair enough. Should we try and be happy and talk about the women?
Yes, because there is some good stuff to talk about when it comes to the ladies. Yes, indeed. It has been a little bit of a turbulent start to the campaign in the new division for the girls, but a little bit of an upturn in fortunes the last time out.
Yes, well, on 2 occasions for them. They ended up winning 5-3 away to West Didsbury in Chilton.
Lovely stuff.
This in the Premier Division, of course, in the North West Women's Regional League. Abby Brown opened the score around 25 minutes before Ocean Flanagan and Zara Plano nested in the space of 5 minutes to give the Whites a 3-0 advantage at the break. Fair Knox's cross was turned into the own net by a Dids defender in the 51st minute. Flanagan got her second in the 62nd minute, although Naomi Lawrence fired in a hat-trick for the hosts to give them some sense of dignity. Well, quite a bit of dignity as it turns out. But all the same, first win of the season for the first team in the Prem Division. No one can take anything away from that because it does so. It pretty much erases the 2 defeats that started the season.
Yeah, look, a fantastic win. Great scoreline, and you've got to look really at that being a massive confidence boost. You lose your first couple of games, maybe you're thinking, ooh, especially a team that's not used to losing, a team that hasn't really had to deal with that kind of adversity a great deal over last term. To suddenly come in and lose your first 2 games, I can imagine would put you a little bit a little bit off kilter. But a big win like that's going to be absolutely just going to be the best medicine, and it gives them the opportunity now to have some positivity and build from that in a little platform.
Yeah, which brings us on very nicely to Wednesday evening, where they went to Curzon Ashton women and thrashed them.
Slap!
That is the right way of describing it. Thrashed them 8-1. They were 6-1 up at half time as well. So they had an alright first half.
Chilled out second half, didn't they?
Just a little bit.
Kick back, relax.
Faye Knox scored a hat-trick in the first half. And incidentally, Faye, I think, ended up having 2 or 3 assists in that game with West Didsbury.
Quality player. We saw it last season. We saw what she's capable of. And those pings from outside the box. Loves one of them.
Yes.
And, long may it continue.
Well, you had Lucy Walsh getting a brace. There were strikes by Abby Brown, Maddie Ardman and Sana Mady. Jordan Bailey did fire in for the hosts when they were 3-0 down, but as I mentioned, Bolton women were leading 6-1 at half time. You can do that thing of saying, oh, they just took it easy in the second half. However, Miles had said in his post-match interview that he gave to their YouTube channel, just said, that's the first 90-minute performance I've seen all season from them.
Absolutely, and you get into the second half, you've got a big advantage. Sometimes you can just expect, right, there's going to be more goals, but realistically, your opposition, they've got back in the dressing room, they've had a chance to reset, to kind of look at where things are going wrong, get some advice from their coaching team, and they're probably going to get back out there. Realistically, you're 6-2 down, 6-1 down, 6-1 down at half time. You're not going out there thinking, come on, come back son, let's get back into that. You're probably going out there thinking, damage limitation, let's not concede loads more goals and completely ruin our goal difference. Let's just try and keep this as low as possible. And so you probably did see a much more defensive performance in that second half, and it probably was a lot more difficult for our ladies to break them down and to get more goals on the score sheet. But to go out there, get another couple of goals, can't complain at that.
Tough game at the weekend for them. They'll be at home to AFC Fylde at Victory Park. Fylde got relegated from the National League last season, and the talk is they are paying a lot of money to their players. They're pretty much operating on a full-time basis. Well, they're full-time, but they're not, if you can see where I'm coming from. But the onus, I think, is on them to get back into the National League at the first time of asking.
Well, it absolutely would be. You come down a division, you want to try and get straight back up there. You did clearly put in a lot of effort in terms of behind the scenes to make sure that they've got a squad capable of doing that, building a squad that I imagine they could feel they can go back up with and have another tilt at staying up. It is going to be a difficult one. It could be one of those where, again, we're seeing what the difference in quality is from the top of the division to the bottom of the division, or what the step up in quality you might expect when you go up to the next level. It's certainly going to be one where I think the girls can learn a lot from. But at the same time, coming off 2 good results, there's no need to fear anybody in this division. You crack on, and you go out there, you give your best, and if we can turn them over, absolutely fair play. I think that the girls will be the underdogs going into this game. I think the Bolton Wanderers women will be the underdogs. I think that might suit us a little, because they can go out there and it's not a free hit, but it could almost feel that way if it is against again a team where everybody is expecting to do very, very well in this division. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all looks out.
Yeah, I'll be in the same mindset as you, and if we can get video footage of that, or I certainly can, I'll be very happy to see the highlights from that one, particularly if it goes well for Bolton Wanderers women. Oh, by the way, the reserves also picked up a couple of victories this week. They are doing well.
Go on, racist girls.
They are 4 out of 4 in Division 1 North.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. And again, it just shows that there is strength in depth within the setup of Bolton Wanderers women. It shows that competitive edge is not lost as you drop down into that reserve squad. I believe it's quite a young squad down at that reserve
level.
level.
I believe that is the case, yeah.
And so I very much imagine that it's part of a cohesive pathway through to the first team for the women's setup. And if you're in that division, which of course is where the first 11 was last season, and they are starting how they go on, it shows that they really aren't that far behind in terms of quality, which is just fantastic for Bolton Wanderers.
Yeah, if you want an idea of how well things went, they beat Fleetwood Town Wren's Ladies Reserves 7-0 on the Sunday. They were only 1-0 up at half time. Lacey Taylor ended up getting the only goal, but you had Eden Slater, Poppy Wallace. There was an own goal in there as well. I don't think it was listed which Fleetwood Town player it was. And an 11-minute hat-trick from Ella Tweedle. It has to be said, as we go on the season like a house on fire, I think evidence of that treble is further evidence to it.
Banging in 3 and 11 minutes, you can't say further than that. That is an absolutely glorious return.
Incidentally, 3 out of those 4 players ended up getting on the score sheet on Wednesday night because they went over to Haslingden Ladies and Girls, 1-4-1, Tweedle, Wallace and Slater, plus Ebony Wilkinson also finding the back of the net. As mentioned, 4 out of 4. No complaints from me whatsoever.
No, fantastic stuff from the women's reserve team. And again, it's what we want to see. It just shows that pathway is looking very, very strong as the women, move forward and try and make their way up the divisions. And to have the reserve team, trailing not far behind them in the wake, it's absolutely bob on for me. But I'm a big fan of it. I will say though that Tweedle, Wallace and Slater does sound like some kind of law practitioners.
Yes, I won't disagree with you on that point. Just to bookend the women chatter, a new forward has come through the doors. Imogen Longcake been signed from Partick Thistle.
Great name, Longcake.
I prefer shortcake myself.
Yeah, and to be fair, when you're looking at cakes coming from Scotland, shortcake is quite a popular one.
Yes.
But we've got the long version, but hopefully just as tasty when it comes to the football, and hopefully it's someone that's going to bag plenty of sweet goals.
Yes, well, she's a Carlisle native, so...
okay!
Yeah.
Well, hang on, Carlisle's not actually in Scotland.
No, it's not. No, don't make that mistake. I mean, it's
not far off, but...
It's a similar neck of the woods to Carl Dempsey, innit? So that means she comes from very good stock as far as I'm concerned.
There you go.
She was on the books in Newcastle United and Middlesbrough as well, and even studied at Northumbria University.
So it's not YI, it's Okai. I mean, no, I've done it wrong way, right?
Yes, you have.
It's not Okai, it's YI. There you go. We got there in the end, anyway.
But it didn't actually list what she ended up studying, because we ended up talking about new signings for Bolton and what they've ended up studying whilst they've been at various institutes of higher learning. But there we go. Good signing, I think, and Imogen Longcake does go into contention right away for the game at home to AFC Fylde. It's still a 7 o'clock kick-off in it at Victory Park.
I believe that to be correct.
Yeah, well, either way, as you said, from your point of view, it's very good because it's not as tenuous a bus ride. That's not the right word, is it? Tenuous.
Tenuous, no. But it doesn't matter. We get the point because, yeah, it is much easier for me to get to Victory Park to go and enjoy a little bit of women's football than it was to get over to the Dreams to Reality, which, again, I think is a fantastic facility, and the only thing that I ever held against it was its location with regards to where I live. And I thought they should have, thought long and hard about that before they built the stadium, well before I was born.
Big game, incidentally, in Atherton tomorrow.
Well, I know it's not Wanderers.
I don't care. It's a big game. It's an FA Cup tie.
FA Cup first round qualifier. Atherton LR are taking on Atherton Collieries. It's an Atherton derby. It's
not just an Atherton derby, a flat cap derby.
A flat cap derby. That's what we want, and it's the only downside to it is that one of them must go out of the competition through this tie. That's
true. I'll be happy if whoever makes it through. I'll be saddened if whoever goes out.
Replay still at this level.
Oh yes, you're right. They might.
Let's have 2 games out of it. If you could just do a 1-1 draw, do like your Bolton Tribute Act, draw 1-1, and then have another go, and 2 big lucrative games, because those games, let's be honest with you, they're going to be packed. It's going to be packed out.
I hope so.
can well believe that it's going to be a nice little earner as well. And being the FA Cup, it'll be a bit of an earner for both, because you've got it's that set 25% capacity, isn't it? And so it's a decent earner for both sides. But if they could draw and get a replay, it could be a massive earner for both sides twice. So hopefully it'll go that way. But I'm only thinking about the local football. I'm sure both sides will much prefer to get it done in 90 minutes.
Yes, I think I'd be in the same mindset, if I'm quite honest with you. However, that's what I should have said. I did put under B team in the notes here, but strictly speaking, it was the under 18s. They did achieve back-to-back wins. They saw off Rotherham United 2-0 in the Professional Development League on Saturday. Jack Mordey and Sonny Coyne on the score sheet. And then they came from behind to beat Coventry City by 3-1 on Tuesday. Xander Taylor, Lucas Kirkpatrick and Charlie Quirk netted in the opening group stage match of the Professional Development League Cup, so not too bad for them. Nice to see the young lads, Julian Darby's lads, pick up a couple of good results after I think they had lost the first couple of games of the season, so nice to see them on a positive footing again.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to see those youth teams doing as well as they possibly can. Of course, at youth level, it's not all about those results, it's about the development of the players, but it's good to see that they're competing well with the teams that they grouped around with in those, in that division in the Professional Development League, and of course in the Cup as well attached to that. We are starting to see, we started to see at the back end of last season a couple of those players coming through now from the youth setup through the B team setup and into the first team. So hopefully we can see more of that. It's great to see young lads coming through the academy, but it's also good for the club in terms of if those players do then move on. It's a profit-making exercise, and in football, as much as you don't like to think about it in those terms all the time, it is a business, and Wanderers producing players like any club is going to be a potential revenue stream. The better you can produce when it comes to those youth players, the higher up the pyramid you can see them going, the more there is, not just in terms of those transfer fees, but also those solidarity payments that are part of transfers later on in the player's career.
One thing I will say that is very nice, I've paid attention to the Northern Premier League because AJ West, one of the B team players, he's getting a solid footing in men's senior football, gone out on loan for the first half of the season to FC United in Manchester, and so far he's getting a fair few minutes under his belt. I forget the number of times he's played a full 90 minutes over there at Burnden Park, but they seem to have a bit of faith in him that they're allowing him to complete 90-minute matches.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's a great indicator of the talent that we are developing and bringing that forward, and that they're going out to these teams and getting senior football in the first team, getting 90 minutes for a team that's, a non-league team, but pretty high up the non-league pyramid.
It didn't do George Thomason any harm.
Absolutely. And they've got an impressive setup, great facilities, close enough to home that, he could probably come back and do some training in our facilities as well. I think it's a great idea, and if it's working for the player, it's working for both clubs, then I'm absolutely all about it.
Yeah, no complaints from me whatsoever. And a couple more announcements here. 2 players been called up for international duty. Sam Inwood will be representing Northern Ireland's under-21s. They've got just the 1 game, as I understand it, in the European Championship qualifiers, and that'll be against Georgia.
Yes.
And Josh Sheen's been called up to the Wales squad for their 2 games against Kazakhstan and Canada.
Yeah, but as it stands, only the 2 players called up at the moment, officially.
Owen Toll last week.
Of course. So does that mean now that the...
no, I think it has to be for the senior squad.
Ah, right.
So
Because Inwood, of course, I suppose, he wouldn't be seen as a nailed-on first-team regular, would he? So
no, the talk appears to be the expecting the game with Wimbledon next weekend to go ahead as planned, which should be, if that does indeed end up happening, that'll be a very rare occurrence where Bolton Wanderers are during an international break.
And it's a tough one because you lose 2 of your 2 good players there. To be honest with you, all right, maybe Sheehan hasn't been starting as many games of late, but Owen Toll's the captain. To lose your captain and to lose one of your first team midfielders is arguably it could well affect performance of the team, and it's a little bit disappointing. But if we've not got that 3rd man called up, the rules are the rules, and we crack on. And on the plus side, we don't have then a game to reschedule later on down the line.
Well, there is that. I hadn't taken it into consideration. For what it's worth, I've checked on Wimbledon, and I don't believe any of their players have been called up for international duty. The only thing they did, there's a defender they got, Nathan Asimwe, I think his name is. He's spoken about how big a deal it would be for him to represent Uganda at international level. But back to the point at hand, no call-ups as of yet for the international scene for Wimbledon. And with Bolton only having 2 players called up so far, it looks like that game scheduled for the 6th of September will be going ahead as planned.
Well, it is what it is, and I'm sure that we will take that as it comes, and hopefully...
I think we will know for absolutely certain by Monday.
Yeah, because that'll all be... Realistically, once Monday comes, the only way that somebody else is going to get called up is if there's an injury to a squad and there's a replacement called up, and then... But, it's on the if and when and maybe, so... Generally, we do think at this moment in time the Wimbledon game will be going ahead as scheduled. But do watch the space and do, of course, keep an eye on all of the social channels for the club and, of course, for us here at Behind the Whites.
And as far as I'm aware, I think that's it. With the exception that the transfer window closes for the 2nd time. It's been weird, this summer transfer window. We'll have it open for, a week? Something like that. Then we'll close it for
Open
6
that
days.
transfer window. Shut that transfer window. There's a draft. Open it up again now, right? You can keep it open for the duration. But it's going to slam shut very, very soon.
Yeah,
will there be any more business done by the Whites?
From what I can gather, I was at the presser this afternoon. He wants to get all business done before we get to Monday. And that's both incomings and outgoings. So by the time we get to the next episode recording, we should be able to report on any additions that may have been made. I am anticipating that 1 or maybe 2 players will go by the time we get to next week's recording.
We will find out in due course. But as it stands, we're not expecting any Peter Road and Wingy moments outside of the Tough Sheet Community Stadium this week for transfer deadline day. But hey, you never know. So tune in to Sky Sports News and see if there's anybody down there and see who's wobbling what behind their heads. Anyhow, that's pretty much that for us. Thank you for once again joining us here on Behind the Whites. As always, do make sure that you give it a like, you give it a share, you give it a subscribe if that's an option. Give us a review if you fancy it as well. And of course, do tell everybody you know how great it is. Even if you didn't really enjoy it, just tell them it were great so they watch as well. Tell your mum, your dad, your friends, your relatives, your pets, your teachers, your teaching assistants. Random people just shout across the street, "Oh, you listen to Behind the Whites." So there you go. And as always, do keep it Behind the Whites. We will see you next time. Well, you'll see us next time. You know what I mean. Have a good one. We will see you soon. Check you later.